everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I'm Justin, and I'm just the bouncer at the local bar.
I'm Nico, and I'm, stay with me on this one, Jafamjada, which is the first letter of all of the months in the year when you take out that little part that spells Jason.
As listeners go through and actually write that out, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about this myself.
Wait. That actually kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
Didn't you say J? And doesn't Jason start with J?
Jason does start with J, just like Justin.
It starts with DGASIN.
Absolutely
Jason.
wild energy starting this episode. I love it.
Well, I'm Dan, the counselor who teaches orienteering, rather.
There you go. There you go. That would have helped him a lot.
Nice.
And Dan kind of gave it away as a camp counselor because once again, the DOTD pod has taken a trip down to Camp Crystal Lake. We're going to be looking at Friday the 13th, Part 2. Hopefully it's twice as good. This one was directed by Steve Miner, and this stars Amy Steele as Ginny, John Fury as Paul, Bill Randolph as Jeff, Marta Kober as Sandra, and Warrington Gillette as Jason. Yep, he's in this one. So we open with Alice, and she's kind of, for a reminder to the audience, the lone survivor from the first movie. So she's still recovering from the nightmare at Camp Crystal Lake, and she's never going to get the chance to, unfortunately. In her apartment that she's staying at, she finds the head of Pamela Voorhees, who is the killer from the first movie. As she kind of recoils in horror, she's automatically killed by an unknown assailant. We then time skip to 5 years later, so really fuck her. But Nico, carry on.
5 years later, and the rest of the world has already forgotten about her as a man named Paul is opening up a new camp right next to Camp Crystal Lake. Who would have fucking thought? With a whole new cast of counselors who I'm sure nothing bad will happen to. Among the counselors are Ginny, Paul's assistant, Jeff and Sandra, and they don't get descriptors. Paul tells the counselors of the legend of Camp Crystal Lake, and the group consider the possibility that Jason might still be alive in the woods. Aw, hell. Can you say foreshadowing? Soon after, Paul tells the counselors that since this is the last night before training, they can have a fun night out in the town. And so Paul, Ginny, and a few of the other counselors hit the town while the remaining counselors stay on the campgrounds to have a fun evening in other ways. Unfortunately, things don't go well, and Jason goes on a rampage on the campgrounds, slaughtering the counselors one by one. And I think there was one that he got a twofer with, if I recall.
Yes, yeah, he did.
Indeed. We'll talk about that because that might be my favorite scene. But Dan, why don't you take it from there? I mean, it's a bloodbath.
At the campground, it's a bloodbath, but back to the bar, Paul and Ginny actually return to the campground and see that something isn't right because no one's alive.
Damn it.
Jason attacks Ginny, but Paul intercedes and Ginny ends up running away. After a brief struggle and some more running, Ginny finds her way into a decrepit shack, which contains an altar to Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mom. Jason enters, and Ginny tries to trick him into thinking that she is Pamela, but he quickly realizes the ploy and attacks her. Paul yet again intercedes, and they end up slashing Jason with the cutlass, defeating him. So now Paul and Ginny go back to their cabin instead of leaving. I don't know why they didn't just fucking leave. Jason doesn't stay down.
Like they had one fucking job, right?
As he fucking jumps through the window, grabs Ginny. And now we flash forward to Ginny on a stretcher, asking for Paul. We close with a shot of the altar and Pamela Voorhees' head, which is a very inconclusive ending, actually.
So funny. Normally I would say we got a lot to talk about, but honestly, we may not. Let's break it down though. Dan, hit me with some statistics. So how's this movie look?
It looks all right. It looks like it's aged in a good way, I think. I mean, I think it generally looks pretty good. One thing I did notice and I do like is, in the original, we have a lot of those like stalker shots where, we see things from Jason's perspective. I kind of like
Yeah.
how in this movie they took that same idea, except they kind of expanded on it. And a lot of times we see Jason's like feet and legs. So I think that was kind of a cool way to continue with the same idea, but add a little bit of change to it, not make it quite the same as the first movie because like everything else is like the first movie. I like that.
Agreed. One thing that I definitely thought about is Nico. One thing he likes to talk about, so I will quickly teeth this from him, is
Oh
the
no.
colors and things like that.
Yeah.
When we talked about Fear Street Part 2, which was essentially an homage to Friday the 13th in a lot of ways, it was very bright and very colorful. And so is this movie. For like large portions of the movie, I would say the first half of it, it's very bright, very colorful. On my LG OLED TV, the colors really pop.
I swear
And
to God.
it was just very nice to see overall. So I really liked the way it looked. Dan, I also thought about you when you mentioned those kind of stalkerish first person POV scenes. I thought those were pretty
that's
cool
not
as
weird.
well.
What a fucking sentence, Justin.
Well, no, because Dan talked
Thanks.
about it previously. He talked about it previously. All right?
I see how it is.
This movie's like a circle. Everything comes back around. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, Nico, I want your take on the visuals as well.
The one thing that I really love about the visuals is, and this is something that I think they just did a better job of in the sequel to this one, where I think it looks just really pulpy, if that makes sense. Like, it looks like what I imagine a super trashy pulp novel would look like in my head if I was reading it. Just like something you would go through with a quick, like, horror story, obviously, but it had character, and combining that with the, like you said, very vibrant color scheme made for a really pleasant viewing experience. I really liked it.
As kind of a quick offshoot, how'd you guys like the kills in this one? Visually.
I liked them.
I thought they were all right. I kind of wanted a little bit more, to be honest. Now, I don't know if that's 2021 viewer perspective, where we have a lot of more gore and things in most movies.
Certainly.
So I wasn't like expecting like blood and guts everywhere necessarily, but there were a couple good kills I liked.
I'm kind of on the same boat. I mean, there was one really messed up kill where I know they did it on purpose, and it was honestly pretty fucked up of them to do. They had the guy in the wheelchair fall down the steps, and I was like, bruh,
Yeah.
that's pretty fucked up. I was like, that's fucked up. I see what y'all did there. That's kind of fucked up though, son. That man did nothing wrong. I mean, none of them did really. But aside from that one, I mean, there's a cool little scene where it's Jeff, I think, has just gotten it in, and then Jason gets it in too. And by that, I mean, he spears him and Sandra with like a plunging attack from Dark Souls. Like,
With an actual fucking spear.
yeah, like an actual spear. And so some of the other deaths as well were like, there was a lot of throat slashing going on. A lot of people got their throats cut.
Yeah.
In the beginning, Alice gets ice picked, I think it is, in the head. That's what it looks like to me, at least. Could be a screwdriver. I could be wrong. But
Something.
I don't know. Aside from that, I thought the kills were pretty good, and honestly, probably even a little more memorable than the initial joint. But I want to switch over here and talk about some sounds. Dan, sounds.
I liked the soundtrack. I think it was cool. A lot of cool orchestral vibes to it. But also we continue with the kind of Jason sound, which I like that they continued that. And so, that was his theme. So whenever he was snooping around, that was there. And I like that little theme.
Bro, that shit got fast as hell sometimes, though.
Yeah.
So quick question, Nico, how did you feel about the themes and I guess the stuff that wasn't included in the theme? So for example, background noise, sounds of stepping, walking, killing, gore, etc.
It sounded good, particularly when you consider that this was, again, made in 81. But one thing that I actually really, really, really liked about this one compared to the first one was the soundtrack. that was going on throughout. It sounded like something you would hear in a 60s soundtrack. Like think back to Curse of Dracula or something. And you have those sort of like grandiose avant-garde sounding films, and this had that sound to it, and I just really fucked with that. Perhaps I'm just coming at this completely different direction than y'all, though, which is entirely possible.
No, that's fair. And the only thing I really have to add to that is there was a moment, I think it was when Jason was chasing down Ginny, where there was like a little string section going. And to me, that string section was very briefly reminiscent of Jaws a little
Yeah,
bit
totally.
when I heard it. But let's go ahead now and, as we sometimes do here on DOTD, let's start from the end. So how do we feel about the way that this one finished? I mean, it's kind of, we're going to be saying this a lot. So if you want to play a quick, game of any variety, every time we talk about this being similar to the first. So similarly to the first, we have a kind of almost like freeze frame ending where, Jason pops up and attacks someone. And in this one, it's him coming through a window and attacking Ginny. And I don't even think they knew what to do after that, because we just cut to Ginny on a stretcher, because it was like, how the fuck did they get out of that scenario? And I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. How do you feel about it?
I kind of didn't like it. I agree with what you said. I feel like they just didn't know what the fuck to do. They didn't know how to get from point A to point B of how are we going to finish this. So they just freeze framed. And then all of a sudden Jason's gone and Paul is fucking gone and Ginny's in a stretcher. Like, it was just like, wait, what? And then also him jumping through the window. I mean, I sat there for like 5 minutes, like, okay, he's about to jump through the window. All right, he's about to jump through the window. So then when it happened, I was like, all right, he jumped through freeze frame? Oh, okay. I don't know. I would have liked something different. That's exactly what they did in the first movie too. And I kind of would have liked something a little bit different.
Nico, how do you feel on it?
I think that it's just kind of silly in a good way, honestly. And this is something that I hope continues on throughout the series, since we're going to be probably watching these in order for the podcast. I think it's kind of a funny little gotcha moment that's just like, oh, you thought there was going to be something here? Here's just a goofy face. Because that's what we see of Jason at the end. He looks pretty fucking goofy. And it's just like, I almost feel like the directors were either laughing at us, like we're totally going to rob them of this really pure display of everything that makes a slasher scene as a joke, maybe. But that's probably giving it way too much fucking thought.
Maybe. Another thing, though, that I did want to ask you guys about is the legacy of this movie, right? And we're going to talk about it in two ways, basically. First, as how this movie stands alone, and secondly, how it compares to the original. So first, again, question open to the room here, is how does this stand just as a slasher? Does it stand up to the test of time? Is this something that people can draw inspiration from? Is it something that's worthwhile to go back to a little bit? How does this stand up as a slasher?
I would say, I think Nico's right. It's kind of a pulpy kind of movie, kind of silly. I struggle to call it like a super serious movie, just because there are some parts, especially with Jason, that are just like, what the fuck was that? Or like kind of goofy. And it took me a little bit, but once I kind of like got it, I was like, oh, I kind of enjoy that. Yeah, it's fun. It's an enjoyable movie to watch. I personally don't think that I guess you can draw, like, for a legacy perspective, you could draw like the goofiness of a slasher, or you can kind of draw the goofiness into the slasher repertoire, I guess. I don't quite know exactly how to say that, but
No, you got it.
so, like Halloween and Friday the 13th, at least the original, are a little bit more scary and serious. And I think from this one, you can draw the more silly side of it, similar-ish to Chucky, I guess. I guess that's what I think.
All right. And I guess, Nico, I know you probably like this one a little bit more. So do you think it stands up well on its own?
I really do. And honestly, I kind of like that they had the little refresher scene. I know that that's probably a minority opinion here on the podcast, but I thought that kind of added to the cheesy, almost soap opera-y like charm of it more than anything else.
That's fair. I agree with you, and that's a real minority opinion.
Oh,
Wink,
wow.
wink, wink to the crowd.
that's a double entendre right there, because it is rare that you agree with him. And you're a minority.
Oh,
And you're brown.
but nah, I agree with you. I think that you can look at it in really serious terms, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be at all.
Yeah.
I think when you look at a slasher, and I'm going to keep it real with everybody here, because we've already reviewed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but in terms of pure enjoyment, I actually enjoyed this one more than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, to be blunt.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre was fucking rough, man.
And I do think that one reason why I think this movie stands up as a slasher is, and we've used this word on the podcast before, it's very palatable. It's very easy to just jump in and go. And to be completely blunt and honest, they didn't even have to have the beginning with Alice. They could have totally cut that out.
Yeah.
Started with the new campers or counselors heading to not Camp Crystal Lake, and everything would have been perfect. There would be no discrepancy. The audience would have been able to remember everything. So I'm not really sure about that. But then in comparison to the first one, I will say this is where I think it lacks a little bit. The first one was very definitive. It was violent. It was like the whole thing, there were the kind of almost sex crazed, college age counselors. You had the lack of supervision or guidance from, a parental unit or someone older. And you had, everyone in the town, you had that mad guy, you're all doomed. And I mean, literally they all got doomed and murdered. So this one was very much, I think, in the same lines. Like they did the same things. It was the same thing over and over again. So in terms of originality, the big break here is that this is where we finally get introduced to Jason. We'll talk about him in a second. But Jason gets introduced, but he plays the same role Pamela did, basically. He kills everybody. Then at the very end, you have like a little bit about him and his mom. Like he thinks Ginny might be his mom, but I don't know. To me, that wasn't necessarily like a big right home moment. And I think the film lacks in creativity when compared to the original. But Nico or Dan, I press you. Compared to the original, where is this one, Like, do you like this one better? Do you like this one worse? Where are you at with it?
I like it better. And I just think it's because it feels like the movie had more fun with it this time around, just like making it and everything. And I think it's just much sillier. Like, it was just a very goofy movie of a slasher. And I think they must have been aware of it. When some of the dialogue sounds like this, what? Gosh, you mean you don't want to go to Camp Crystal Lake, Bobby? Or whatever their name was? Oh, come on, don't be such a sissy. Like, bro, they had to know what they were doing with that.
That is fair. That is somewhat fair. Dan, live up to the first?
I don't necessarily have an opinion on that. Plot-wise, and what happens is like almost identical. But I think that the first movie is a more serious take on it. The second movie is a goofier take, like Nico had said. I struggle to say I like it better or worse because I would almost be comparing different perspectives, I guess. It's just a different
That's
take
fair.
on the same subject,
True. And just as like a yes or no, does this movie hold up over the ravages of time? Does it hold up?
I think so.
Yeah, the only thing that I think is just questionable, maybe a little suspect, was like, why'd girl have to piss herself?
Oh, well, that was essential
True.
because Jason had to hear her piss herself.
So that he could hide on a fucking chair and jump off.
My man looked like he was fucking smacking the... What's the game where you like hit the squirrel in the fucking...
Whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole, yeah.
I'm sorry, did you say squirrel?
Yeah, I meant to say mole. My bad, fam.
Wow.
I love squirrels.
Wow. We know what Nico does in his free time.
Some nice alliteration, though. Smack a squirrel. Huh. I should trademark that.
Remember Spider Stomp?
No.
Nope.
Y'all never played Spider Stomp?
Nope.
Nope.
Wow. So anyways, we've kind of, dangled the carrot at the end of the stick. It's time to reel it in. Let's talk about Jason. So this is Jason's big debut, except it's not really the Jason you think about when you think about Jason, right? You think about Jason wearing the hockey mask. He has the cutlass. He's ready to rumble. This is not that Jason. This Jason wears a bag over his head. And he uses whatever implements he has available. There's one dude, Jason goes, Agent 47 and like garrots him from the back.
Yeah, that was intense, bro.
With fucking, what's the...
Barbed wire.
Spiked, yeah, barbed wire, yeah. I'm like, damn.
Like he does that. But then, sometimes he's kind of fumbling around a little bit. And there's one part in particular we got to talk about. Dan, tell me about this chainsaw scene.
So there's this part where Ginny gets a chainsaw, right? And I was like, oh shit, it's over for Jason. Like, there's no more sequels after this. It's done. And she starts the chainsaw, and Jason's like, oh no, chainsaw, oh. And then she like goes to attack him, and he puts up his arm. And then there's a little like tink, like a spark. And then the chainsaw is just like fucking gone.
I swear there was an actual fucking spark or something.
And I was just like, wait, I rewound to see like what exactly happened, and I still don't know. And he just like took a chainsaw to the arm and nothing happened. It's fucking armored armadillo over here. Like, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't quite understand what happened. And Ginny just was like, all right, fuck a chainsaw, I guess. And moving on. That was weird.
That's very true. Now, surprisingly, though, he was like susceptible to a hit from the machete, though.
They also just bonked him a few times with like planks and shit.
Yo, what made me die inside was when Ginny like beat him with a chair. Like
Yeah,
at one point in
right.
time, she just like smashes him with a chair, and he's like, oh, like he stays down. Like you could see that hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I felt bad for the dude, like under the mask or whatever, because like
Yeah.
this man just got like hit with a chair like it was straight up WWE, bro. And that was kind of wild. But talk to me more about Jason, his motivations. And one thing I want to say is this. I was a little bit confused because, again, I watched this through the eyes of someone who's only ever seen the first movie. In the first movie, a big driving point is Jason died. Because, remember Camp Crystal Lake? And he drowned because he was unattended. The counselors were having filthy sex. So now he's grown up, though. And he lives in a cabin like right down the road. I don't know how anyone missed it. And on top of that, he's like built a little shrine to his mom's. I'm just sitting here like, okay, so Jason's alive, but then we're given to sort of think that the end scene from the first movie where like a little kid jumps up and grabs Alice might be true, might be a dream. It's not really confirmed one way or the other. I guess she could have still been hallucinating, but Jason's definitely alive. But his mom didn't think that. I'm a little confused. Can someone help me with this, Nico?
I think his mom was clearly off her fucking rocker. So that probably goes a long way towards portraying the narrative integrity of this sort of narrative that you're working with here.
That's fair. That is fair. Now, Dan, I want to know a little bit about Jason's motivation. I'm going to come to you now. This man tracked Alice down all the way in whatever city she was in with a severed head. He somehow managed to make it to her apartment.
Yeah?
Like, solid snaked his way inside, stuck a severed head in her fridge, waited for her to find it, and then killed her. And then he had to take that severed head all the way back home. So...
Imagine him just like being on the bus.
That's what I was thinking.
A severed head in his lap.
I mean, clearly Jason is, you can't tell me he doesn't have a sense of irony. The fact that he killed the people who had just finished having sex by like spearing them both through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Like a flesh kebab. Come on now.
Yeah.
But we know this image of Jason today, and there's the, what he is in this movie. Does this movie, you think, the ending is kind of ambiguous, but did you think that, there would be more? Did you think there would be more after this with Jason?
What do you mean?
Just judging from the ending, does it seem like it opened for a sequel, basically?
Oh, like
Yeah.
assuming we don't know about the future
Yes.
releases and stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
totally.
yes.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Definitely.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. And I guess just talking really quickly about what happened in the aftermath. I mean, again, we're pretending we never saw any of the other ones. What do you think happened after, Alice was on the stretcher? What do you think she might have told the cops? What do you think the reaction might have been?
I think they probably would have thought that she was crazy or something, just because that's usually how situations like that go, either in horror movies or in real life. Sometimes, a lot of the times, let's be real. But it would behoove me to not, again, just go back to, I want to see what happened when he reached through the fucking window, bro. I want to see it.
I feel like Paul jumped in and like stopped him from killing her, and then Jason killed him. I feel like Jason smashed him up against like the bedpost or some shit, and then killed him. But then Paul also like stabbed him with a shard of glass from the window.
Ooh.
Oh,
That's probably what happened. So that incapacitated Jason.
oh, okay.
So then
yeah.
that allowed Ginny to get away for a little bit, but then she succumbed to her wound and passed out, right?
Okay.
And then
Makes
these
sense.
cops who like apparently patrol the area like a shitload. As soon as those other kids like got into Camp Crystal Lake,
Yeah, that was
proper,
mad fast, huh?
like 2 minutes later, the cop was like, "Nah, I got you." So I feel like the cops came by, saw Ginny, put her in the stretcher, and that's where we saw. That's my theory.
That's a fair shot.
I dig your theory.
I'm much on the same boat. I just think like he jumped out and he grabbed Ginny and kind of choked her unconscious. And then Paul booped him on the head and they like ran around a little bit.
Tom and Jerry style.
Yeah. And then Paul lured him off site. That had to be what happened.
I would see all of these movies.
So before we get into the what would you do, are there any themes, kind of major themes you think are in this movie? Anything really to intellectually dissect? See, for me, this movie is kind of a pretty good example of the oft-spoken of male gaze, because I'm going to tell you what. What's her name? Hang on, scrolling up. Sandra. No, not Sandra. What was her name?
Fit girl.
The girl was very fit. Like she walks onto the screen, right? And the first thing you see is ass. Like her ass is like hanging out the jeans. I texted Nico. I was like, bro, I know they did that in 1981. All right. I didn't know they was on that at that point in time. I had that song, I Found You, This New Booty. Like I had that played in my head. And then
put it together and bring it back to me.
that's how you know Nico's real. He know the rest of the song. But the point is, I feel like she's just there to be sexy. Like that's her job. Like she is there to be sexy. And yeah, the other campers kind of have a little bit of appeal too, but she is like, boom. She goes for like a little skinny dip.
What, you mean you're not attracted to the guy who sounds like the joke all the time when he's talking?
I mean, hey, man's had a six-pack, yo. Man's did have a six-pack.
Oh, he definitely did. He had a fucking cardboard. Rock
Cardboard.
solid.
I got a cardboard six-pack too, okay? I got a cardboard six-pack too. It just got a little bit wet in the rain.
You're the cardboard that the six-pack comes in, bro.
I know. There you go.
Oh,
There you
no.
go. That's exactly right. So I definitely think that's like a massive, massive part of the movie. And I mean, this movie does kind of rely a little bit on the basest instincts, violence, sex, and it's not really rock and roll, but whatever the fuck they were playing in the bar. So, Dane, anything else you can pick apart from this one?
No, not really. I didn't really think too hard about this film, to be honest with you.
And I don't think they wanted you to.
Yeah.
Nico, our esteemed scholar, I know you must have gazed into the abyss and something gazed back.
No, I mean, it's just a lot of blood.
That's fair. So now it's time for the what would you do? All right. So very similar to the first, we're counselors. So we're hanging out and let's just say, for example, that we take the roles of Paul and Ginny. So when we come back,
Jenny?
Pop like Papa New.
to be fair, how is that name even pronounced?
You ever seen Harry Potter, mate? You know, Ron Weasley's sister.
Yo, I don't even know her name like that, bro.
Okay.
Had a crush on Harry, who's a fucking wizard, mate.
You're a wizard, Harry. But no, fuck that. So
I'm a what?
I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck. That meme surpassed the book. That meme surpassed everything, okay?
Yeah.
So anyhow, whoa, I forget what we were talking. Oh yeah, so our girl Big G, like she doesn't come back, Paul doesn't come back. It's the three of us. So we get to the campsite and everyone's gone. What would you do?
I would also say, oh, something's wrong. Everybody's dead. Per Dan in our synopsis.
We don't see any dead bodies because they didn't find them until Jason attacks, and then they find them. Because Jason is very SAT word
That's
fastidious.
how time works. People have to die before they're killed.
Yes, and then after he like removes them.
Yeah, he puts them in closets and shit.
So I'm saying, until you find the first one, like, would you investigate? Would you immediately leave? What would you do?
I would probably investigate personally.
Same.
So we all investigate because I agree. And then Jason pops out. So who's the first person to get attacked by Jason?
I'm a clumsy motherfucker. It's probably me, I think.
That's a fair point. Fair argument.
So he jumps out and he's like strangle holding Nico. Dan, are you about to jump in and like stomp him out?
Yeah, I'm going to boop him on the head.
Yeah, okay. So we boop him on the head and then he boops you back on the head. And then I hit him a spinning roundhouse kick. And then he like tackles me and temporarily, you know what I'm saying, like hits me with a quick punch and I'm dazed on the ground. And he chases. Who's the one to find Pamela's house? Is it you, Nico, or is it you, Dan?
Be like me.
So Nico initiates, you know, the specialty maneuver and he like blends into the curtain on the wall and like Jason can't see him.
Shit. I got
So,
fucking
Dan,
nanotech, y'all.
You find the little shrine that they've got. What's your plan? Do you find a weapon? Do you try and persuade him that you're Miss Voorhees? What do you do?
Yeah, I would definitely not put on Miss Voorhees' sweater. And hell no.
Bro, I thought she was going to put the skin on too.
I thought so too.
That would have been brutal, bro.
Yeah.
Damn.
That would have been nice.
But I probably would have found a weapon and I probably would have like kicked the head or some shit, like to make him mad.
Just like punted it?
Like a fuck you, bro. You killed all my fucking friends and shit. You're attacking me. Like, fuck your mom. Like, goddamn.
Oh, okay. And then let's say, you know, Jason attacks you back and then I jump in and help out. And then Nico stumbles into the cavern. So he guesses he's going to help out too. And then we finally manage to incapacitate him. You know, we give him a quick cutlass, you know, to the shoulder. First off, is that all you're doing to Jason?
Hell no.
Fuck
I'm gonna fucking
no.
persona raffle stomp him, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, just stomp him out?
The
All out attack?
yeah,
Fair
dude.
enough. I always say this, yo, like, I'm going to like hit you with like the coup de grace, bro. I'm about to finishing blow you. I'm about to like chop you in your neck and, you know, your sternum. Like, you're not going to be getting back up from this. So that's that. But let's say, would you then immediately leave, or do you think it was right to go back to the cabin and regroup?
Fucking leave.
That's
First
fair.
of all, chick needed to go to a hospital.
That's very true as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I would leave.
I mean, that's all we could do because, again, the movie's pretty limited. But, not to foreshadow here, but let's check the Rotten Tomatoes to determine how this movie did critically. How do you guys think? Good? Bad?
I think it did really well. I'm going to say high 70s.
And that's what you think from the critics, right?
Yeah. Actually, yeah.
All right, Nico stands where he stands. Dan, how about you?
I feel like they give like mid-range, like maybe like 60s, upper 60s maybe.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but you're damn wrong.
Oh.
This has a
Ooh.
27% from the critics on
Wow.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, that was kind
Wow.
of unnecessary. That was a bit harsh, mate.
Holy shit.
It's got a 48% from the audience.
I think that's the most
Oh.
we've ever been off.
Yeah, probably.
So why don't you guys go ahead and, you know, give me your favorite scene, maybe some things you liked or didn't like, and your score. So who wants to go first? Who wants to start off here?
I'll start off just because the idea of just naming it an actual twofer and going just like boop, like Come on, that's money. That's a great moment in the movie.
That is fair. And what are your general thoughts about the movie and your score?
Oh, yeah, no, I really, really, really fuck with this one. I like it just a lot more than the first, and I already liked the first one for what it was. Like Dan has said previously in this episode, it's something that just feels very tonally different, and I think that is to both of the film's strengths, honestly. I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm giving it an 85.
Wow, okay.
Nico almost 20 points advanced of the other critics. Dan, you want to take this next one or should I?
I can go.
All
I
right.
think my favorite scene, just because of the ridiculousness of it more so than anything, was after he gets the 2 for kill. He takes them out of bed and he like puts a pillow on his head and like covers himself in sheets or some shit. So then the next person who comes into the room, he just like jumps out of the bed and he's like, and like gets them.
That was also real fucking goofy.
So that was probably my favorite scene just because it was, like Nico said, pretty goofy. I thought this was a fun movie to watch and I enjoyed watching it. However, I think there's some glaring errors in it that I don't want to take away from the movie too much because, again, the movie isn't supposed to be, I hope anyways, all that serious. So I'm going to give it like a 77.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. And from my perspective, first off, my favorite scene, I'm struggling because I really did enjoy the 2 for scene. But probably, and this is going to be not one of the killing scenes, but I like the scene between, and I don't even know their names. There was this one girl and the dude who was in the wheelchair, and they were playing like some kind of 80s handheld game. I think they had hockey and one other joint that they could play. And I appreciated the fact that, and again, bringing up the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just the way everyone took the piss out of the dude in the wheelchair in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and treated him like total shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that in this one, this dude was like part of the group, this chick actually, like was genuinely into him.
Yeah.
So I thought their little interaction about that, and she's like, what are we playing for? And she's like, position. And I was like, get him. And I was so angry, bro, that he didn't at least get a chance to get it in before he died. Because I was like, come on, man. And he was even kind of motivating, He had the whole backstory about how he had gotten into an accident, but he wasn't going to let it keep him down.
That's true.
And he was going to keep pushing forward for the future. I was really rooting for this guy.
Same.
And then I guess sometimes life just deals you with Jason. So that happened. All in all, I like the movie. I think, and I have the Rotten Tomatoes screen open and I can see that it says the movie is an hour, 27 minutes long. Probably a solid 7 to 8, maybe more minutes of that is Alice remembering the first movie. The movie doesn't overstay its welcome. It's in, it's out. You get introduced to the cast. Everyone dies. We keep it going. I think it's a great slasher. I don't know why the critics hated on it so much. Like, I get it. This isn't like Midsummer, but it didn't have to be. And all in all, I had fun. Now, I didn't rate it quite as high as you guys. I'm sitting closer to a 70 personally, but I think it's great fun. I think it is exactly the kind of movie that you want to watch with your friends or even by yourself. If you're just in the mood for something that's not totally nuts, you're not looking for something like Housewife where your mind's going to melt, or, something like Midsummer where you're going to have to write an essay and define what happened. It's totally fun. So I give it a 70. Now, is this something that we as a group recommend to our audience?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm in agreement there. I totally agree. Now, is this the Golden Seal?
I don't think so.
Nah, I don't think so either. So, dear listeners, while this does not get the Golden Seal of approval, it's still recommended. It is a fun movie. Now, any last thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I swear to God, I thought the mom's head was going to open her eyes at the last second.
I did too. Yep.
Yeah.
So they didn't do that. They did manage to avert that cliche. But if you want to talk to us about this or any other movie, you can totally find us on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. Don't open that door. Plus, you can check out any other episodes or pretty much anything we've done on our website. That's dotdhorror.com. But till then, take care of one another. Be observant of your surroundings. Definitely don't go to a place where there was a massacre like 5 years ago. And as always, don't open that door. Bye.